One of the great revelations of the age of space exploration is the image of the Earth, quiet and lonely, somehow vulnerable, bearing the entire human species through the oceans of space and time. Someday, perhaps soon, a message from the depths of space may arrive on our small world. If we wish to understand it, we first have to understand science. To the people of Europe, these exotic images revealed an utterly alien civilization. Among them were pictures of something called the Rosetta Stone, and portraits of the people who lived among the ruins of the pharaohs. Sailed slowly upstream, following the course of the Nile. If we look at it, we see that it clearly represents the same text in 3 different languages. Up at the top, ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. In the middle, a kind of cursive and later hieroglyphic called Demotic. And down at the bottom, the key to the enterprise, Greek. Champollion could, of course, read ancient Greek. He was a superb linguist, and discovered that this stone had been inscribed to commemorate the coronation of King Ptolemy V Epiphanes. So here we have the Cleopatra cartouche, and here the Ptolemaeus cartouche represent a P. So Ptolemy and Cleopatra both give us the same interpretation, la, P-T-O-L. Likewise, the second hieroglyph in Cleopatra is an Ptolemy. It's an O. Cleopatra, it's an O. And in this way, Champollion was able to assign letters for each of the hieroglyphs we see here. Ptolemeus, and likewise Cleopatra. The eagle is an A. We notice there are 2 different symbols. This is a symbol called the Ankh, which means life. Here there's a PT, and that's a Ch, makes Ptah, name of a god. And the whole cartouche read, Ptolemy, ever living, beloved of the god Ptah. Likewise, the end of the Cleopatra is a short form meaning daughter of Isis. Classic example of a close encounter of the 3rd kind. Why? What makes it so curious and dispassionate, watching us to determine whether this year again we manage to avoid self-destruction?
We don't have time for this.
As I have said before, the purpose of these lectures is not to discuss the contents of my book, which, by the way, is doing fabulously well, and I urge all of you to run out and buy a copy. What my book simply begs for, Liam, is proof. I am not here to change any of your precious beliefs. But what I am here to tell you is that when you investigate such phenomena, you must adopt an objective and scientific position. Now, if you want my opinion,
We hope you'll reconsider, Mr. Shaw. We're not difficult to find.
How would we explain all this to a dispassionate extraterrestrial observer? What account would we give of our stewardship of the planet Earth? We have heard the rationales offered by the superpowers. We know who speaks for the nations, but who speaks for the human species? Who speaks for Earth? From an extraterrestrial perspective, our global civilization is clearly on the edge of failure in the most important task it faces, preserving the lives and well-being of its citizens and the future habitability of the planet. But if we're willing to live with the growing likelihood of nuclear war, shouldn't we also be willing to explore vigorously every possible means to prevent nuclear war? Shouldn't we consider in every nation major changes in the traditional ways of doing things, a fundamental restructuring of economic, political, social, and religious institutions? We've reached a point where there can be no more special interests or special cases. Nuclear arms threaten every person on the Earth. Fundamental changes in society are sometimes labeled impractical or contrary to human nature, as if nuclear war were practical, or as if there were only one human nature. But fundamental changes can clearly be made. We're surrounded by them. In the last 2 centuries, abject slavery, which was with us for thousands of years, has almost entirely been eliminated in a stirring worldwide revolution. Women, systematically mistreated for millennia, are gradually gaining the political and economic power traditionally denied to them. And some wars of aggression have recently been stopped or curtailed because of a revulsion felt by the people in the aggressor nations. The old appeals to racial, sexual, and religious chauvinism and to rabid nationalist fervor are beginning not to work. A new consciousness is developing which sees the Earth as a single organism and recognizes that an organism at war with itself is doomed. We are one planet. The search continues.